By the way, I was on Sabby Sab's show yesterday, Sabrina. She was nice enough to bring me on. We had a really good talk. I think we talked for about an hour on all things Ukraine, Russia, Trump administration. We even got into a little domestic politics. So definitely check her out. That came out at 7 p.m. Eastern time. She's cool people, and she has a really good show. So definitely check her out. And she's always been nice to me, which, it's always, from my point of view, a good thing. Interesting news. Fascinating news. I would even go so far as to say. So I'm trying to figure out where to start. So let's start here. Russia has been. No, I guess we have to start with Iran. Let's start with Iran. So Supreme Leader Ayatollah, let's go back just a little bit. Witkoff gave a written proposal to Iran. Now, people were speculating, okay, what is in that proposal? Considering that the Trump administration for the longest time kept saying, we're not going to accept Iran enrichment, we want a Libyan model, etc. But then Axios came out and reported, hey, Donald Trump is going to accept limited enrichment. Then Trump comes out and says, to be clear, no enrichment. So this seems like a contradiction. It's not exactly a contradiction. What Donald Trump is effectively allowing, and this is according to the New York Times, this is according to Axios, and you have to read somewhat between the lines because it makes it clear there's not really a distinction between the two. But the difference in that distinction is why this is a dead letter proposal. Now, they're supposed to be going into, sixth round of negotiations coming up very soon. But as this stands, dead letter. Let me explain why. So right here, U.S. proposes interim step in Iran nuclear talks, allowing some enrichment. Axios is reporting something very similar right here. U.S. nuclear deal allows Iran to enrich uranium. All right, let's go to the New York Times piece first. Because this needs to be nailed down as to why this is a non-starter. The Trump administration is proposing an arrangement that would allow Iran, first, right there, allow. Who the F are you? Who the F are you? I don't know why the New York Times didn't say that. Trump is going to allow it, and then in parentheses, who the F is Trump to allow anything in a sovereign country? Let's keep going. While the United States and other countries work at a more detailed plans intended to block Iran's path to a nuclear weapon, but to give it access to fuel for nuclear fuel plants. There's the other problem word, give. So you expect Iran to build nuclear power plants and be dependent upon you to give it the fuel for those power plants, you and the other quisling governments, UAE, Saudi Arabia, all of which are effectively vassals of the United States. You really expect that, do you? Is that what you expect? This is what I mean when I said American point of view. Nobody who's sitting on the moon looking at events, looking at the way the U.S. behaves and the way that its quisling governments behaves, Saudi Arabia could turn around tomorrow and be against Iran again, right? So why would Iran, who is self-sufficient, allow that? There's that, right? New York Times is oblivious to New York Times. Let's keep going. The proposal amounts to a diplomatic bridge intended to maneuver beyond the current situation in which Iran is rapidly producing nuclear near bomb-grade uranium to reach the U.S. goal of Iran no enrichment on its own soil. Red line. So before you even get into deep into the article, within the first paragraphs, we've hit red line, dead letter. Under the proposal, the United States will facilitate the building of nuclear power plant reactors for Iran. Again, who the F are you? Why would Iran want an enemy's help? Because that's what the U.S. is, an enemy. Why would it want an enemy's help to build nuclear power plants when Russia, country that it works with, it's in BRICS with, is in diplomatic alignment with, military security alignment with, it's right there. Who the F are you? This keeps coming up. To negotiate the construction of enrichment. Under the proposal, the United States will facilitate the building of nuclear power reactors for Iran. Whoever you, negotiate the construction of enrichment facilities managed by a consortium of regional countries. Once Iran begins receiving any benefit from those promises, it would have to stop all enrichment in the country. Why would it do that? Red line. I hope you get my point. All of these things are red lines. This is nonsense. Again, this is a U.S. point of view. This notion that the U.S. is some kind of trustworthy actor. You are an enemy. You're going to be treated as an enemy. You have no credibility at all. Why are you pretending as if you do? The idea of a regional consortium would essentially wrap Iran in a bear hug with countries that might include the United States, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and others, allowing the production of low-grade nuclear fuel for power plants while seeking to ensure that Iran is not enriching fuel on its own for a bomb. Okay, well, for one, there's no evidence that it's doing that. Two, whoever you. Why do you think you're going to be trusted in any such way? The notion that you're going to, help Iran build a nuclear facility, why would they do that? Why would they want you even in that process? And two, you're going to have to give it fuel. So they're going to have to be dependent upon you to get fuel for their nuclear reactors once they become dependent on nuclear reactors. And you think that this is a good idea, this is a good plan, and then Iran is going to be like, thankfully, the U.S. is here to help us out. You're delusional. Every bit as delusional as the Russian deal. Let's go to Axios for a bit. Axios goes into this bit also. The nuclear deal proposed by the U.S. gives Iran on Saturday would allow limited low-level enrichment on Iranian soil for a to-be-determined time. Axios has learned, contradicting public statements by top officials. No, it does not. No, it doesn't. If Trump is saying Iran will not be, quote unquote, allowed to enrich uranium, and from their point of view, okay, you'll get some running room because we need to get from point A to point B. But once we get from point A to point B, then we need you to stop doing that. Okay, then from the point Trump's administration's point of view, we stopped them from enriching uranium on their own soil, and we were able to create a gateway through this impasse. You haven't created anything because your premise is exactly the same. Whether they stop enriching immediately or whether they stop enriching a year from now, that's only a temporal difference. Doesn't matter. You're an untrustworthy actor. They had a deal with the JCPOA. All of that stuff was done. You pulled out that deal. So why on earth would Iran trust you with anything at all? You had a deal with Gaza, right? You had a deal with Canada and these other countries. You had a deal to end the war when you first got in office. None of those deals have come to pass. And the deals that you were trying to come up with the Russians are just absolutely absurd, comically stupid. This is also comically stupid. Iran is not for it, obviously. Supreme Leader Ayatollah comes out, makes a brutal statement saying effectively the U.S. can't do a damn thing on the nuclear issue. He gave a speech. He said the first word of the United States is that Iran should not have a nuclear industry and should rely on the United States. The leader said in the televised speech, this was on Wednesday, quote, our response to the U.S. nonsense is clear. They cannot do a damn thing in this matter. The leader, marking the 36th anniversary of the passing of the founder of the Islamic Republic. His remarks came after President Donald Trump outlined his administration's position when it comes to the nuclear negotiations with Iran, said Tehran would not be allowed nuclear enrichment. Ayatollah Khamenei said nuclear enrichment is the key to the nuclear issue, and the enemies have also put their fingers on enrichment. Again, notice the word enemies. Enemies. You are an enemy. Why will we trust you with something like our energy sovereignty? The answer is simple. We won't. We won't. He cited the 1980s experience of U.S. unreliability in providing fuel to Iran when the United States and Europeans denied 20% enrichment uranium to the Islamic Republic. Quote, why are you interfering? Whether Iran has enrichment or not, what does it matter to you? Who are you? The leader said, addressing the United States. This would have only been a better speech if the critique the supreme leader, if I may do so. If instead of saying, who are you, he would have said, who the fuck are you? To add emphasis. I wish he would have just said, who the fuck are you? That would have been fantastic. I would have been sitting here beaming. Whoa, that's awesome. You've pissed the supreme leader off to the degree that he is on TV dropping an F-bomb to put emphasis on who the F are you and why are you involved in this process? Why are you here? Why are you talking to us? Why are you even bringing up this issue with us? We're a sovereign country. We can do whatever we want. Who are you? Damning question. And apt. So this is dead on arrival. It's an impasse. Now, again, they're going to negotiations, and the catch becomes what happens in those negotiations. This is a red line. And this has been such a red line that I don't know how Iran, A, backs away from it, and B, what does the U.S. do if they do back away? And the fact that the U.S. is putting out demands that they knew in advance were off the table, again, makes me very dodgy about this process. A, you're lying as if the goal of all of this, is Iran trying to get a bomb. Okay, well, everybody knows that's a lie, or at the very least, everybody who's paying attention, it's a lie. On the second front, in addition to the lie, you're also making this very specific point that, well, this is not a process for the U.S. This will be a process for the IAEA, maybe countries in the region, maybe that. But you are blissfully ignoring Israel has nukes. You're not taking the position that we want to denuclearize the entire region. That is not the position you're taking. You're taking the position of, we need you to unilaterally make yourself defenseless. But you can trust us after you do so. Hey, what about Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Sudan? What about all these countries? Don't worry about those. You can trust us. Now, Trump talks like a fool. So does Witkoff. They talk like fools. Witkoff supposedly went into negotiations, gets a deal with Hamas. Israel changes the deal, and then Witkoff blames Hamas and does it over and over and over again. And again, if you look at the context of history, Iraq has nuclear weapons of mass destruction. Do they now? Do they now? Is there really yellow cake uranium that's part of this process? This is a rerun, meaning they don't even have the intelligence to come up with a new scheme. They come up with an oldie but baddie. Hey, let's just rerun the whole weapons of mass destruction plot. Let's just do that again. The public was stupid enough to believe this first time around. Maybe they'll be stupid enough to believe this time around also. And so they come up with Iran is trying to get new weapons of mass destruction, despite the fact that the country that you're given billions of dollars to a year, the country that has been invading one country after the next, that has been slaughtering, raping, killing, imprisoning women and children, burning children alive, using people as human shields, literally documented to do so, bombing hospitals. That country has nukes, and you're blissfully quiet. Why is the U.S. continuously acting as if it's a mediator? That's the part that's shocking to me, or the part I don't get. You are a participant of the war in Russia. Full stop. You're an enemy. You're belligerent. You're killing Russians. And yet you're saying, but this is not my war. It is. It's your war. It's your war. Full stop. It's your war. If you're going with this notion it's not your war, we have nothing else to talk about. It's your war. That's your proxy. You're giving it money. You're giving it directions. You're giving it intelligence. That's your war. The war only goes on because of you. And yet Trump is acting like I'm a mediator. The same thing here. Or with Israel and Gaza. You're given money, hand over fist, bombs, bullets, weapons. Every bomb that burned the child alive is a bomb that Donald Trump, or for that matter, Joe Biden, gave it. And yet you're acting like I'm also a mediator. How are you a mediator when you're a direct principal to the war? Same thing with Iran. You're acting as if you're some mediator. Mediator to what? To who? Why are you here? It's astonishing. And the U.S. media runs with it like Donald Trump is a mediator. It's weird. If you are sitting on the moon Looking at events, you would think to yourself that U.S. media is functionally insane. They drop context, they don't give you necessary information, and they come away with this weird, warped point of view that takes what America wants more so into account than reality itself. Meaning, if roles were reversed, you would be able to see it from the other angle and come up with a solution that is more amenable to the other side. Otherwise, you just want a war. Otherwise, you just want a war. So that is what's going on that front in regards to Iran and Israel, in regards to the nuclear issue. The issue up to this point is deadlocked. It's going nowhere. Iran is not going to bend, nor should they. We shouldn't even be having this conversation. The entire premise of the conversation is ludicrous. Iran is a sovereign state. If it wants to build nukes, it can build nukes. It's not our issue, not our problem. That is a problem maybe for the region. Maybe that's a problem for Israel. I don't care. Fact of the matter is, if they had nukes, a lot of this wouldn't be taking place. If they would have just went and built those nukes early on, we probably wouldn't be here right now having this particular issue, because you wouldn't be able to attack Iran every bit as much as the issue with North Korea. I am more concerned with a religious maniac country, Israel, having nukes, frankly, and this potential willingness to use those nukes against Iran. That's my concern. I'm wondering, not picking a fight here, but I'm super curious about what certain analysts are going to say about this. Are they going to say, well, the U.S. is the U.S., Iran is Iran, and so if Donald Trump tells Iran that they need to get rid of their nuclear program, then that's what they should do? Is that what they're going to say? Are they going to pull another John Bolton? Are they going to say, well, Iran is making a mistake here because Donald Trump is going to nuke Iran? Is that what they're going to say? Is that what they're going to say? I strongly suspect that Iran is going to have to take its respect at the barrel of a gun every bit as much as Russia did, and that China may have to do something similar. This is not something that I like. It's not something that I want, but I live here. I'm an American. I see how my country behaves. It pushes and it pushes and it pushes, and it thinks it can bully, which is the reason why Russia is in a fight right now, shooting one Ukrainian in the face after the next, taking their respect at the barrel of a gun. And it seems that the only thing the U.S. is going to be happy with is either allowing, and I am saying allowing, Israel to strike Iran, acting as if, oh, we were in negotiations. I can't believe you did that. Or to join in with Israel for strikes on Iran. That is going to be a sad day. It's going to be a sad day. And if Iran starts blowing ships out the water, blowing planes out the sky, sad day. That's all I'm saying. It's something that you asked for. You were told the stove was hot, and yet you wanted to touch it anyway. And from Israel's point of view, they full well are in the belief set that if they attack Iran and Iran responds with overwhelming force, that the U.S. will get involved. We don't even know if Israel would, quote unquote, blackmail. Again, I'm of the mind that Israel was not a rogue actor, that they're working in U.S. interests, but blackmail with nukes. Hey, if they hit us, we're going to strike back with nukes. Okay, so you just put yourself in a position where you're going to use nukes, because the idea that you're going to be able to hit them and they not respond is nonsense. For however dangerous the situation in Ukraine and Russia is, this is just as bad, if not worse. Zelensky is a lunatic, yes. The Trump administration is full of sociopaths, yes. But you have a theocracy that is willing to murder its own people for its own political whims, meaning this Zionist whims of expansion into this kind of greater Israel. Iran is the last thing standing in that region. And not just the last thing standing in that region, U.S. policy is to get rid of Iran. So anything that takes place is never going to be in Iran's interest. It's going to always be either to weaken, undermine, destroy, or to put Iran in a position where Israel can go after it and the U.S. can go after it at a later date. There is no negotiation that is going to be to your best interest, in this case with the United States. You may want to do it to get rid of sanctions, fair enough. You may want to do it to start attacks. Again, fair enough. But let's just be very clear. These negotiations are not for your benefit. These negotiations are to your detriment, which is the entire point of these negotiations. The bullying, threats, all of these things are trying to get something out of Iran that it doesn't necessarily want to give. Iran, to its credit, has stood strong, as they should and as they need to, because anything less than that would effectively allow you to be taken advantage of. And so sovereignty, for better or for worse, needs to be defended. And this is Iran's red line. Again, shouldn't have to negotiate with you at all. And so the fact that they're willing to go into this negotiation to stop a larger region of conflict, fair enough. I accept it. I get it. I understand where they're coming from. But let's be very clear. If Israel attacks, it's not doing so without the U.S. permission. And the U.S. can't say, well, we didn't sanction that attack. If once they attack and Iran responds with overwhelming force, which God knows I hope they do, take it off the map from my point of view. They are a rabid, fascist, apartheid state that has shown themselves to be incapable of being a state. So yeah, if you're going to hit Iran, then you need to deal with the consequences of that whirlwind. If the U.S. turns around and protects Israel, then the U.S. can't say we didn't sanction the attack. Full stop. You can't do that. How can you do that? Hey, we know Israel hit you, but we don't want you to hit them back. Dude, you've lost your mind. A sanction or issue of sovereignty is for us to be able to defend ourselves. The entire point of a nation is the defense of the people of that nation. If you strike, we need to ensure deterrence. And deterrence is obliterating you. But understand what that means. Israel will launch nukes. I'm trying to point out to you that this maniac state is the issue, not Iran. The fact that they're willing to provoke a fight and then potentially go to nukes in that fight is terrifying. And it should be terrifying. And the fact that the U.S. will back them up in that is even worse. For however bad things are in Europe, this is where nuclear conflict can happen. It's not provoked by the Iran. It's provoked by the U.S. and its proxies. Full stop. The issue is not Iran. The issue is America and its slavish devotion to this aircraft carrier in the Middle East that it effectively uses in order to grow and expand like any other settler colonial state for the best interests of the U.S. and for the lunatic whack jobs that are in that country. Be scared. Be very afraid. And I don't mean that in the sense of go cowering. I don't mean it that way. I just mean if you are concerned about something popping off, this is the region of the world for that concern to take place. Yes. From my point of view, Russia is a rational actor, and they've done everything in their power to A, avoid war, and B, limit the scope and expansion of that war. But in the same way that the U.S. kept poking and poking and poking and poking and pushing and pushing and getting closer to the border, lying, removing credibility. Even you realize the reason that those airplanes were out there was because under a treaty, at least this is what Ratanzi is reporting, that they're supposed to be out there under satellite coverage. This was part of the deal. And so not only did you back them in doing this, you backed them in doing this on something that a treaty obligation required them to do. Now, you could say, why would Russia trust the U.S. under these terms? Agreed. And would they trust them going forward? No, they would not. And I'm saying, Iran, buyer beware. And up to this point, it seemed to have taken somewhat of a rational line on this notion of, we have our standards. You're not going to bully us, not going to push us. We would accept a deal under these terms that we're okay with. Enrichment and removing enrichment is off the table. God bless him for it. God bless him for it. But let me bring in my guests. I see him in the background. I'll hit the Russia thing at the 8 o'clock hour, maybe the 9 o'clock hour. I screwed up on the calendar today. I thought Ted Rawl was going to be here at 9. Ted Rawl is going to be here tomorrow at 9 o'clock. My mistake.